mind-blowing evidence of Moses' journey from Egypt to Saudi Arabia revealed. This is on Sputnik News today. Despite the majority of researchers questioning the accuracy of the book of Exodus, it's unbelievable, but there are people who believe that it never happened. Some believe that Jews' flights from Egypt did indeed take place, and that new evidence of this is poised to seriously shift the frame of the discussion. The archaeologists from the Doubting Thomas Research Foundation, DTRF, believe it or not, there is such a thing, the Doubting Thomas Research Foundation, which investigates the historicity and evidence of biblical accounts, say they may have found the route to the promised land taken by the Israelis under Moses' leadership. Well, when I was studying this, I wanted to imagine to myself exactly the route that they took, because everything that they were doing was symbolic and very important to how that would fit to the New Testament. Now, I called the Jewish rabbi here in Athens, Greece, and asked him exactly which path they took from Egypt to the Sinai Peninsula, and he says they went through the Sea of Reeds, which is a very shallow place, and it would not have been difficult for them if there was a strong wind for them to cross there. And that is the Suf area. And exactly, they know exactly how that took place. Now, so the route, they may have found, they say, this Doubting Thomas Research Foundation may have found the route to the promised land taken by the Israelites under Moses' leadership. Filmmaker Ryan Moreau of the DTRF made three trips to Saudi Arabia, which he says was part of Moses' route. He says, what I found there was simply mind-boggling, mind-blowing. I could not believe that there was all this evidence for the Exodus, and hardly anyone outside this region was aware of it. This is what he told the Daily Star. The book of Exodus, the second book of the Old Testament, the first is Genesis, we know, and the Torah provides an account of the departure of the Jews from slavery in Egypt and under their journey through the wilderness. According to the biblical narrative, the Israelites fled the Egyptian army when Moses parted the Red Sea, with the waters later closing up again upon their pursuers. They are said to have later arrived at Mount Sinai, where Moses received the Ten Commandments from God and ended up settling in what is now Israel, 40 years later, of course. The location, the Israelites, not Moses, the 12 tribes, that is, the location of the biblical Mount Sinai is traditionally associated with Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, and at the foot of the mountain, St. Catherine's Monastery was built over what is traditionally believed to be the site of the burning bush from which God first revealed himself to Moses. Ryan Moreau believes, however, that the real Mount Sinai is located over 100 miles eastward across the Gulf of Aqaba, which separates the Sinai Peninsula from Saudi Arabia. After 3 trips to Saudi Arabia, he says, I'm fully convinced that the Israelites went into the ancient land of Midian when they fled slavery in Egypt. He also says there is evidence that Moses led his people across the Gulf of Aqaba from what is now the coastal town of Nuweiba in the east of the Sinai Peninsula, where the crossing would just be nearly 8 miles wide with a shallow depth of just 33 meters. Moreau argued it's going to take some time to bring this alternative theory into mainstream historiography, but I believe that our work is going to seriously shift the landscape on this subject. The mainstream scholarly consensus is that there is no archaeological Bible representation that represents the reflection of the Jewish people on their origins rather than detailing the specific moment in history. I have to tell you here that in the Athens Archaeological Museum, there is a stele, which is a carved column of stone, which depicts Moses standing on an edge of a mountain, and he's holding up his hands. One of his hands has a rod, his cane, and he's looking up towards the sky. There's a big cloud above him, and the seas are wavy and stormy, and they're closing over Actually, it's not one depiction. It's like a cartoon when you have rows of images. There were 3 rows on this stele, and they show the sea closing up on the men that are coming from the other side in chariots. That stele was found in ancient Greece, in the time of ancient Greece, in the area of Mycene. You know, Mycene, the area of the kingdom that the beautiful Helen of Troy was kidnapped by Paris and the Trojan War started. That area. That area was full of Hebrews. The Spartans, as we know, were Hebrews. That's why they couldn't take part in the war against the Athenian war against the Persians in the Battle of Marathon, because they had their Rosh Hashanah in the month of September. They couldn't help the Athenians. And this is all, if you have a Bible, please, the Old Testament, you must read the book of the Maccabees. It's all written in there. How the Spartans wrote a letter when they had their allyship. They became allies and protectors of the Jewish people. The Maccabees wrote them a letter, and they wrote back saying, we have a letter saying that we are the children of Abraham. What we have is yours, what you have is ours, and because we're brothers. So we have the evidence that the Exodus took place. The stele was found in ancient Mycene, and a similar stele has been found in Jerusalem depicting the iconographication, the icons of Moses parting the Red Sea and the sea closing in on the enemies of Israel. So it did take place. Now, going back to this, perhaps these skeptics have doubted the historical account of the Exodus story because of lack of evidence at the traditional site of St. Catherine's, but what we have found appears to fit ancient accounts. Late last year, his foundation released a document titled Finding the Mountain of Moses, which cited undeniable archaeological evidence of its presumed relocation in Saudi Arabia. In the film, he said he discovered several pieces of evidence that the Exodus did occur, like a rock split by Moses and the remains of an ancient altar where the Israelites worshipped a golden calf while Moses was on top of the mountain. The golden calf, the split rock, Moses' altar, the Red Sea crossing site, all of these pieces need to fit, and they fit at this site in a way that no other site does, he added. We don't necessarily believe the same deities as the ancient Egyptians, Babylonians, and Assyrians did, but we still accept the evidence that these peoples existed and that there were major events during their respective existences. He says the accounts of the Exodus are no different, and now we have real physical evidence that these events took place. Let me just tell you, in the 7th century, like around 1650 AD, Muhammad went to the monastery of St. Catherine's in the Sinai Peninsula, and he gave a document sealed with his handprints and his seals and his vule, his ring seal, stating that no Muslim is to touch the monastery of St. Catherine because of the fact that the burning bush was there, and that's where Moses received his first contact with God, Christ. Muhammad would not have done that if he was not sure that the burning bush was at St. Catherine's Monastery. Believe me, he would not have done that. And that was only about, 600 years AD. Okay, so there's no other location. He would have found, especially who was in Saudi Arabia, who would have known of another location. And that's not to say that the 12 tribes of Israel in the 40 years that they were there, as they made their way towards the east of the Jordan, did not go and did not have water coming out from other areas to supply to the 12 tribes of Israel. They came out of Egypt 600,000, and they got into Israel, the promised land, a lot more, of course. So you could imagine in 40 years there was 2 more generations of men. So I'll leave a link below for you for this on Sputnik News. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.